probably the greatest femme fatale in all of the history of literature is Lady Macbeth. And when she steps on the stage in the play, the Scottish play, the play goes up a notch. She is a live wire pulsing through this play. She matches Macbeth in his complexity, in his intensity. She is probably more intense. She burns out a little quicker, but it is electric to watch. She is a remarkable, remarkable character, and as a motivator of the drama, she is pretty much unparalleled in the Shakespearean corpus. Now, you can have a lot of different opinions about whether or not she is pure evil. Is she a misunderstood wife? Is she just suffering from some kind of postpartum depression, perhaps? There are a number of possibilities that critics have been battling around for a long time. And there are no answers. There are no final answers, at least. There's only pure speculation. But that is part of what's fun about her, is the idea that we never quite know. And the simple axiom that all humanity is ultimately unknowable because all humanity is ultimately infinite. The idea that you can ever come to a simple, put a button on it answer about her, it belies the entire rationale of what we see as the Renaissance and, quite frankly, the early modern era. People are too rich and complicated to be simplified in that way. But when she comes on the stage, it takes the drama from Macbeth just sort of getting wandered around and being a little mealy-mouthed and a little uncertain about, well, this happened and then this happened. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. And she comes in and puts the steel in him. And in the play, quite frankly, before that, he's just kind of wandering alone amid these other characters who aren't all that interesting. So when she is there, it's a moment. Now, she comes in right at the beginning of Act 5, and at this point, we have the basics of the drama set up. We know about the witches, we know about Duncan, we know that now Macbeth, who had been kind of waffling on what to do with this information about the prophecy, has been the idea of sitting still and letting Duncan pass away of natural causes one day, and and the kingdom being bestowed upon Macbeth passively. He knows that has been foreclosed because we're coming straight out of scene 4 where Duncan names his son Malcolm as his heir. And so we understand that things are picking up. And she comes in reading a letter, we're told. Now, whenever you see a character in literature and art and whatever reading, that's got to set off a little tingle, because reading is what this play is kind of about. Everybody is trying to read and interpret one another, and she is reading and interpreting this letter. And what you pull out of it, what meaning you get from it, is going to vary considerably among different people and over time. So that consciousness is always there. So when you see a character reading, understand that this could be Shakespeare getting a little meta. The idea of reading and interpreting is complicated, let's say. So she comes on the stage reading a letter, reading it aloud in her voice, what Macbeth has written to her, which is an odd twinning right there, because she is starting out, the first words that we hear from her aren't hers, they are Macbeth's. But of course, behind both of these, the words are Shakespeare's. So there's already a kind of funhouse mirror effect to this, so that we're never quite sure where Lady Macbeth begins and where Macbeth himself ends, and where, quite frankly, Shakespeare factors into any of it. She enters with this note. He is reporting the results of the battle, and he, of course, gets to the matter of the witches, and he talks and he tells her about that and its significance. And there, I think it's important. Whiles I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king, who hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me, and referenced me in the coming on time with Hail, King, thou shalt be. This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart and farewell. Which is a really sweet sentiment. Think of it. He is not reporting to her, look what's good for me. He is saying, hey, this is good for you too. Good for us, arguably, but it is it's a curious motivation that he is sharing this. He wants her to feel good. He's trying to cheer her up in some way, or at least let her share that little portion of joy, which makes you wonder, well, does he expect that she does not have enough joy in her life regularly? So there are all sorts of complications there. And also that sweet line, lay it to thy heart and farewell. The tenderness of it, that thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing. My dearest partner, not subordinate in any way, a partner, I think, in a number of different respects of that word. So there's something really quite heartfelt about this. And I would imagine that most wives would be touched to have the husband regarding them this tenderly. But again, in a play that is largely about interpretation, what is her takeaway of this? She never mentions the sweetness of it. She goes on immediately, in her words, supposedly, but again, we don't really know immediately, the change in register. Actors are going to be actors, but she says, "Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised." So she automatically seizes on the opportunity, on the possibility of greatness in a royal hierarchical sense. And the mushiness, just the sentimentality. She plucks out the core of the message, at least the core for her. That's her takeaway, and she is automatically intrigued by it. She definitively says, "Shalt be what thou art promised." Very emphatic. But she automatically, and here you can see perhaps how she is a little bit more goal oriented, let's say, than her husband. "Yet do I fear thy nature; it is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way." She understands her partner, and she understands his characteristics, psychological and emotional and behavioral, and he is perhaps a little weak in decision, or a little weak in follow through. He's a guy. So she is going to take it upon herself to enliven his ambitions. "Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it." Illness is a curious word. Does she have this illness, and is she claiming it is an illness? Little odd word there. "What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily, wouldst not play false, and yet wouldst wrongly win." This is getting very convoluted, like she is kind of figuring things out in her own way, but with a clear idea of where she's getting. She is creating a rationale, if you will, for getting to the goal she wants. She is quite clever that way. "Thou'lt have, great Glamis, that which cries, thus thou must do, if thou have it, and that which rather thou dost fear to do, then wishes should be undone. She knows he's doubtful. She knows he can be a little wishy-washy. We have seen this already where he doesn't really want to have to go through with killing Duncan, so he's been looking for ways around it. And she is aware of this. She can anticipate it before he even voices it to her. She has not seen him since then, but she knows exactly what's going through his head. But it is all interpretation. Hie thee hither that I might pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valor of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have crowned thee withal. She knows her role. She says, okay, come to me, come to mama. I'm going to set you straight. I will pour my spirits in thine ear, which makes me think of Hamlet, quite frankly. Pour my spirits. Spirits is a curious word because, again, the connection with witchcraft, quite frankly. Lady Macbeth is kind of a outlier, weird sister in that way. She is, after all, in this moment, acting as an agent of fate. She is saying, okay, you're going to try and get out of this idea of where we're going, but I am going to hold you to it, just like fate. Messenger comes in and says, your husband's on the way. He's running just ahead of everybody. Oh, by the way, the king is coming. That's the linchpin. She knows that, okay, she has just learned that this prophecy exists. She understands what that means. And now the opportunity is presenting itself. Duncan is coming to stay with them for the night. And she immediately knows, this is what I got to do. She is decisive that way. She is smart that way. She understands how to take advantage of opportunities. She is essentially a politician. She is a great politician. She understands people. Notice how all of this is about her understanding people on a very basic level, on an amoral level. She's never saying, oh, but he wouldn't do that because it's not right. She's saying, oh, he wouldn't do that, so I have to correct him in that. It's not about, the moral calculation does not click in at all with her. So now she's excited. Now she knows, okay, it's all coming together, and she is taking this in real time and processing it very, very quickly and very, very decisively, knowing where she is going. He brings great news. Speaking of the messenger, the raven himself is hoarse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe-top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. Come to my woman's breast and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers. Wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief, come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold. Whoa! She's got away with a soliloquy as well. First thing in that, quite frankly, my battlements. She is in their castle. It is the home of the Thane of Glamis, and it is suddenly her home. Reflecting back on the word partner, she's claiming ownership. Female ownership is not really much of a thing at the time that this is set, which is like medieval England. And the curious assumption of that proprietorship is very telling, I think. But of course, you can't ignore how decisively and explicitly gender plays a role in this particular speech. Unsex me here. Let me divest myself of all female stereotypes, all female characteristics. I'm not weak. I'm not girly. I'm not nervous or scared. I am ruthless, which is generally accorded a male characteristic. I am ambitious, which is generally rewarded as a male characteristic and poo-pooed as a female characteristic. But she's saying, no, get rid of all that. Take it all away. I want to be me underneath all of the appearances of womanhood. Whoa. And also the characteristic of being of going against nature, quite frankly. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts. Again, more summoning of the spirits. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remort, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose. She is invoking the spirit world to oppose the natural world. She is overleaping the natural world, like her husband, to invoke something more, something forbidden, something occult, but something to which man is not meant to have access, like knowing the future. And she sees it as a viable tool towards getting what she wants. The means, or the ends justify the means, let's say. Come, thick night, and pall thee to the dunnest smoke of hell, more darkness. You see her and her husband always associated with darkness, which again is going to look strange on the stage in broad daylight, but that effect will further distance the audience and have them go, that's that person's a little weird, thinking it's dark out when I know, I got a little glare here. Should have brought a hat. The entrance of Macbeth then is an opportunity for her to exercise some political skills. And he comes in and she's all welcoming. Great Glamis, worthy Cawdor, greater than both, by the all hail hereafter. Teasing him. And again, that warm embrace at first. And she doesn't seem like a particularly warm person at first now, does she? So, that big, perhaps a bear hug and, great Glamis, he's coming in. Hey, my wife appreciates me. And that's got to feel good. But she uses that as a little sugar to tease him for the greater reward. And that is her goal here. She knows immediately, in order to get that, I have to go through these few steps. And the first one is my husband. My husband, I know, is going to be sort of waffling on this. I have to set him straight. Great Glamis, greater than greater by all hail hereafter. Thy letters have transported me beyond the ignorant present, and now I feel the future in an instant. Feeling the future in an instant, the future in the now, transported me, overleaped, into a realm that man is not meant to transgress. The idea of defying nature, of getting outside nature, Shakespeare is very clear on his opinion of this, is seeping in again and again and again. And we're supposed to be hearing these little hints and going, uh-oh, this is where things go wrong. And Macbeth, like a good boy, comes in and says, okay, let me report the news. Duncan comes here tonight. The future, but it's definable and it's simple, and she's already talking about past that. But she wants to know the more specific information there, and how long is he going to be there? When goes hence? In other words, okay, he's going to walk in the door, but what then? Tomorrow as he supposes. Macbeth says, as he supposes, injecting that sense of doubt. And they know what they're talking about here. They're talking around it. They're not saying specifically what it is. But as a husband and wife, they of course have means of communication that exceed the explicit, exceeding the explicit, the natural. But they are communicating around something by interpreting one another. They are reading one another, and they don't need to say right away exactly what their idea is, but they both know what it is. Oh, never shall sun that morrow see, later, and darkness. Your face, my thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. To beguile the time, look like the time. Bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. He that's coming must be provided for, and you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch, which shall to all our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom. Macbeth, we will speak further. Lady, only look up clear, to alter favor ever is to fear. Leave all the rest to me. And they go, exit. Whoa. This woman is in charge, quite frankly. Never shall sun that morrow see, future and darkness. Your face, my thane, is as a book, more reading, more interpreting. I am reading your face like a book. I am reading this play like a book. I am reading and interpreting everything that I see around me. But of course, reading is not necessarily a direct line. There are points of interpretation and conflict that cannot necessarily be predictive. To beguile the time, look like the time. You can criticize this as being a little superficial, a little, okay, a little too smarmy. And it is very political. Be a phony, be a fake, be inauthentic. But it's good political advice, quite frankly. How many political leaders have found times where they have to put on a happy face or keep on a calm face when everybody around them is losing theirs? In Rudyard Kipling's favorite or famous line, that notion of being in command of your face and presenting something different to the world than perhaps you're feeling inside. That's the role of a leader. Very frankly, that is very often the role of a great leader. And she is giving him this advice: to beguile the time, look like the time, bear welcome in your eye. Hi, yes, Duncan, nice to see you come in. And that is very gracious, sure, but you don't have to feel it. How many times do politicians have to go and welcome people to something that maybe they don't even like? That's what diplomacy is, for God's sakes. But she is telling him, this is what you have to do. Understand the difference between the inside and the outside, and the appearances, and how to manipulate them so that people will think one thing, they will interpret one thing, even if you are thinking something completely different. But he that's coming must be provided for, and you shall put the night's great business into my dispatch. Wow. More proprietorship, quite frankly. He that's coming must be provided for. Duncan, she can't even say his name, or perhaps she's not saying it because she doesn't want to personalize him, so that Macbeth can actually go through and kill him. You call him by name too many times, and it'll be a person. But objectifying him with a pronoun. But also that notion of, okay, he is coming, let me handle it. More proprietorship, more ownership, my battlements. She is in charge of the house. The house is technically her domicile. It is the proper place of womanhood, and she is operating within it. She is not out on the battlefield unseeming somebody from the knaves to the chops like her husband, but she can do similar in the domestic sphere. And that's where the scene has transferred to here. We are back in the home. We are back in the realm of domesticity, of woman. And that is an interesting parallel, a double, if you will, with the battle scenes, or at least the battlefield adjacent scenes that we began with. And the carnage is, quite frankly, even worse, I would argue. But that sense of ownership, that sense of being in charge, which you can read a number of different ways. It can be her, manipulating and saying, "Oh, I'm in charge here, and you're just my puppet. I'm pulling the strings." And it can be a very devious Machiavellian view of Lady Macbeth, and that's a legitimate reading of this. I would say that's certainly the traditional one, quite frankly. But there is room for an alternative, and it's infinite alternatives, quite frankly. But it might help. I find it helps if you look at it a little bit more generously from time to time and think, well, she is saying, in effect, in those moments, leave it to me, hon. You're tired, perhaps. You've been out at war. It's been a long ride. You raced to get here before Duncan, so you're probably really exhausted. Why don't you just go freshen up and leave everything to me? There's a lot of work to be done. I'll take care of it, which is actually a very loving thing to do, which is her taking care of her husband who is, perhaps she knows, a little erratic sometimes, a little bit on the crazy side sometimes, and that sense that as a woman, her nature of maternal feeling, of loving feeling, of wifely feeling, that nurturing aspect of womanhood that she so rejects, that nature cannot be escaped. It returns to her whether she likes it or not, whether she wants it or not, even if the ultimate goal of that is a rejection of nature and nurture and the role of supporting loyal spouse in the committing of murder.